Hi, I hope you're doing well. So I'm just about wrapping up on my summer knitting projects and I'm starting to plan what I want to knit next for autumn. So I've spent the past few days researching patterns, looking up yarns, and I've got myself a big list of everything that's piqued my interest. So I'm going to be sharing that list with you today. I've tried to film this video so many times and I just cannot coherently get my words out. So I'm just going to incoherently yap and we're all going to have to be okay with that. I think it's because I truly cannot get excited about autumn and I'm very sorry for my lack of enthusiasm, but here we don't really have a proper fall. The trees, the leaves on the trees change colour and it gets a little bit darker and it's a little bit brisk for a week or two, and then it hits you that it's 5 degrees and you've got 8 hours of daylight, and that's going to be your lot for the next 6 months, which, as someone that loves the heat, loves the sun, loves sunbathing on the beach, is just not something that I can look forward to. So autumn's definitely my least favourite time of year, and I try and spend as little of it in Scotland as I can, as is possible. So if you see me on the other side of the world in November, you know why. It's for mental health reasons. Once December comes, I'm so fine. Once spring is in sight and it's only 3 months away and the days are getting longer again, we're all Gucci. But September, October, November, even though I'm a Libra, no, I can't do it. I'm not gonna call it seasonal depression. I don't want to be that dramatic, but it's a seasonal slump for sure. All that being said, I do enjoy knitting sweaters, so that's going to be the majority of what I want to chat with you about today. So first off, this is going to backtrack because I've mentioned this in 2 or 3 videos. I think I mentioned it in my summer knitting plans, but I'm gonna reach down, grab the yarn. We're gonna do this all in one take because I really do not have the energy to do much editing today. This is the yarn I want to use. We've seen it before, maybe, some of us. I certainly have. I've been staring at it for the past 2 months. I want to knit a sunset coloured ombre sweater. So this is a bag full of drops brushed alpaca yarn that I want to hold double and switch between all these tones and create a nice ombre gradient. You get the vision, you know the vibes. Yeah, you've probably got it on your Instagram Explore page too, if we are in any way similar. I want to knit this. I want to knit My Favourite Things Knitwear sweater number 6. So this is a pretty simple stockinette raglan sweater, but what's different about it is that the collar isn't your classic ribbed collar, as is the case for most very simple sweaters. It's got cord edging and puffy sleeves, and it just looks great. I think it would look so great in this colorway. And I've worked with this yarn before. It's super soft, super easy to knit up. And the pattern is, I think the recommended needle size is 7mm. So I could totally do this in a week, 10 days, something like that, if I wanted to challenge myself, because I knitted that cardigan with 5mm needles in 2 weeks. So I could probably really fly through this if my wrists allow. So maybe I'll do that as a bit of a challenge and turn this into something wearable and stop this being something that I just think about this clutter in my room at the moment. Very pretty clutter, very soft clutter, but clutter all the same. So that'll be coming soon. I think this is going to be my first cast on. Definitely going to be my first cast on. And I think I'll shut up about this now because, again, I've been saying I want to knit this all summer. We've been waiting for you all summer and we're so glad you're finally here. Anyway, let's do this one take. Number 2, self-drafted scrap yarn sweater. So I want to do this. I've had this idea for ages, mainly because I have so much scrap yarn. I have knitted so many white things in my life, white wool things. White wool things with a bit of grey wool things. I have so much white and grey wool. So many little bits, odds and ends of white and grey wool, and I can't bring myself to throw them away. So I'm gonna have to do something about it. And I've seen, I think it was Jenna Phipps, like Queen of the Craft YouTubers, Jenna Phipps, did a scrap yarn crochet sweater. And I kind of like the vibes of that. I want to do that, but knitting. And also all the yarns that I have are like completely different sizes. So I'm going to be using different needles and hopefully have an effect where like some of it's more like holey and then some's like quite tight knit, whatever. I think could look really cool. It could look an absolute mess. But either way, it's going to get rid of all these odds and ends of yarn that I have. The only thing that is kind of holding me back from starting this immediately is that it's a self-drafted pattern, and I'm sure I've got it within me to figure out how to do a raglan sweater without a pattern. Like, I've got enough patterns that I can look at and reference, but I think just the idea of like, you know, like not even making a mistake, but like casting on the wrong amount of stitches is something that's holding me back. Like, I won't be able to do a gauge swatch and all that sort of thing, like the stuff you put in place to try and like mitigate for any errors. So I think this will be more of a trial and error than your average pattern would be. I've also bought a ball of red yarn, and I'm not sure if maybe it could be quite a good look if I did like the collar, a ribbed collar and like ribbed sleeve cuffs and like hem in the red, and then everything else was white and grey. Or maybe I'll just do the collars and that white and grey as well. I'll see. There is a sweater that I'm almost finished that I'm going to be using like the rest of the scrap yarn. The rest of the yarn from that sweater will be going to the big scrap yarn stash. And once I've finished that sweater, if it's very soft, which it feels very, very soft, it's like alpaca wool. If when I wear that, it's very soft and like no itchiness around the neck, I might use that yarn as the collar, because like this area is like red alert zone. Like, we cannot be having any yarn that's like a bit touch and go around here. This is like soft zone only. And then I can do like more rustic yarns for the body, like above where I'd be wearing a t-shirt. But yeah, so I'm also excited for this because this will involve frogging my first ever sweater, which has been sitting in the scrap yarn pile because it's completely unwearable. So I think I would like to film this partly so I can show you my first ever sweater before I reduce it to a pile of knots and balls. Give it a proper send off, because that sweater is probably like my real introduction to knitting. But she's gotta go. She's unwearable. She's gotta go. So yeah, that's sweater number 2. Break time. I get this thing when I film YouTube videos. It doesn't happen at any other point in my life, but I yap so hard that it gives me a dry tickly throat, and I feel like intensely dehydrated. I feel like I'm getting a cold, and I'm not. It's just because I'm just so laser focused, man. This is like you and me, like I'm relaying that information. Right, anyway, the list. I think I can pick up my feet. Oh, I'm not going to show you it because you never know. But just, yeah. Oh, I'll be so good like a monkey. Yeah. Monkey time. Okay. Oh. So this one's not a sweater. I want to knit a little top in silk. Now, you may be thinking, that's giving summer. That's very summer vibes. Listen, what are we wearing under our sweaters? Riddle me this. Because like, most of the time, I'm not outside in the winter. Wish I was, but it's 5 degrees and dark. Most of the time I'm indoors, and then, you know, if you're wearing like a chunky sweater and it's like temperature control, like in an office or like a pub or something, you're taking the chunky sweater off, and then whatever you're wearing underneath has to be part of the outfit. Like, we can't just stop thinking about cami tops just because it's... Anyway, so I'm going to be really brave and say it. I'm knitting cami tops in autumn and winter. Now I've been looking at my favourite things knitwear again. I think my favourite things knitwear has become my petite knit. Like, I did look on petite knit. I've never knit anything from petite knit, so I thought, you know what, maybe this season I'll look on petite knit's website. nothing's quite right for me. And I know this is kind of blasphemy, like kind of treason. Nothing's exactly my style. But my favourite things knitwear is, like, I could do a lot. I could do the whole shop and just have that as my only resource. Anyway, I really like camisole number 9. It's basically just like a ribbed sort of racer neck cami top in a fingering weight. And I think this would be really good for going onto sweaters. I think silk would be a good fabric to use. Silk's quite good in the winter as well as the summer. The other cami I'm looking at is the 9 PM Tank by Tiffany Ty. I think this is very much like put in your measurements, made to measure sort of pattern. It's got a lower neckline than camisole number 9, but yeah, quite thick straps. It's not, I really don't like the very thin spaghetti straps. I don't think they suit me, but these thick straps could be quite nice. So I'm torn between those two. I think camisole number 9 is kind of pipping me to the post, mainly because there's so many amazing photos of other people's camisoles number 9, and I'm very interested in that. I would knit this in white. I know it's a bit boring, but I think white silk, like if I'm gonna be buying silk, I want it to be something that I can wear a lot and forever, or at least until it stretches out. I'm also, this isn't a cami, but similar vein, intrigued by the Feels Right tee by Lily Kate. What did I write there? France? Lily Kate France? This looks just like a perfect knitted t-shirt. It's again in a fingering weight. I think all of these patterns are fingering weight. I think this would look so good in silk, and maybe is more appropriate for winter as well because more of your body is covered. For the yarn, I'm thinking either knitting for Olive Pure Silk, of course, a classic, we all know it, but there's also this new brand that has been very heavily advertising to me on Instagram called Plain Material, and they sell a very small selection of yarn. It's all like pure brushed fingering weight silk in a very select amount of colours. It looks like the new Knitting for Olive. I think if this yarn's like actually good and people enjoy knitting with it, I think this is going to be like the next new designer yarn brand. Which, you know, is fine. It's very expensive. I think it's like £16 per ball. So even like a tiny little top would cost like 45–50 pounds, which is a bit yikes. But it's my birthday coming up, so maybe I'll ask for £50 worth of silk. That plus the labour cost, it really will be like a designer piece. Designer piece. Correct. So if you've knit any of these three, please let me know if there's any pros and cons I need to know about before starting. I think the camisole number 9 is the strongest contender for this. I'd like to do all of them, but like they're fingering weight, so I know my limits within 3–4 months. Maybe another one in the spring, who knows. Another non-sweater item that I want to knit is a beanie. So I think I have one beanie. I don't think I suit beanies that much, but they're kind of a necessity when it's cold. And I think if I had like a really nice hand knit one made out of a really soft fibre, I would be more inclined to actually bring one with me and save my little head from getting cold. And the one I have is a light grey, so I would like to make one in a more fun colour, just so I have like options, you know? So I hate to say it again, but my favourite thing's knitwear. I did look at Petite Knit. All of the beanies on Petite Knit are like much thinner knits, and I've tried on a lot of beanies in my life. I really don't think I suit beanies that much, but the one I have is really chunky, so I want to do another really chunky one in the hopes that that will suit me too. So I want to knit beanie number 1. I think it's like an Aran weight or a worsted weight. Not gonna lie, I don't fully know what the difference between those two are, but yeah, it's a thick one. I think this would probably take me like a day or two to knit. and I've been recommended for worsted weight yarn Drops Air before as a really, really soft yarn to use. So I'm going to trust that recommendation. Honestly, the biggest decision in making this beanie is the colour of the yarn, because there's loads of nice colours of Drops Air. Part of me is really drawn to this sort of bright cobalty royal blue shade that they have, but I don't own anything in that colour. I'm really like colour averse. I think, oh, should I get into this? It's such an aside. Yeah, okay. So I, for like 4 or 5 years, didn't wear any colour. I was so scared of colour. All I did, this was like at the peak beige aesthetic, all I did was wear like white, cream, beige and black. Like I didn't even wear grey. And it was great. Like all of my wardrobe went together. Oh, and like blue denim as well. I didn't like struggle to fit colour in because everything went together, and that was fine. But like it did really limit what I could buy, and especially with like, you know, getting into knitting and all the nice colours that are available, it really, yeah, like I couldn't be as creative with my fashion choices as I wanted to be. Then I think I did my own colour analysis when that was like a really big trend, and I was like, oh, maybe this is why I didn't understand colour, maybe this will help me like colour. And I'm a summer, which is basically like muted tones, like muted blues, muted purples, and it wasn't like, I tried buying clothes in those colours and it's just not me. Like I don't like wearing like muted pastels. Those, I don't think they suit me. Like they suit my skin tone, but they don't suit like me and like the type of style that I want to wear. Like I think now I've kind of come to the realization that I like neutrals, and then I like a really bold statement like red, like just true red, that sort of thing. And I think I see true red despite the colour analysis telling me otherwise. Oh, I did take away from the colour analysis is the shades of the neutrals. That was really good to know, especially like with buying yarn, like knowing the like creams that lean too warm or beiges that lean too warm or too cool are like, I like need to be just on this side of cool, like super cool, like blue greys, a bit too much for me. Also I learned about grey, like grey is a really good substitute for black in my wardrobe, and I've definitely picked up on that. But other than that, like I'm still kind of very cautious when it comes to colour, because I'll try and experiment, but then, you know, it won't work. And when you're knitting and pouring so much effort and money into something, you don't want to be making those like rookie decisions when it comes to colour. So yeah, not that it really matters with this beanie that'll probably cost me £3 and take me 5 hours. Maybe this is a point where I should experiment a bit with colour and go with that like royal blue. But yeah, like really, like I don't want to make another grey beanie, or I don't want to make a cream beanie or a white beanie or a black beanie. And the only colour that I know that I like is red. I don't really like brown. I mean, I'm wearing brown, but like it's a very obvious choice. Like I have brown as a choice of colour and not as a default neutral, if that makes sense. So I don't want to make a brown beanie. So I really don't know what else. I don't like khaki. I think maybe like a neon? Would that be, I don't know. Does anyone else have this? What colours do you wear? What colours do you think I should wear? If I wear mainly neutral clothes, what would be like a nice little pop of colour beanie? Maybe like a really like acid yellow. Oh, I've got like decision paralysis thinking about this. So if you could just tell me, that would be great. Okay, last but not least, I need to talk about the sweater. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably have already heard about this sweater. I love this sweater in a way that I did not know that I could love sweaters. I got this in a charity shop like 2 or 3 months ago for £7. It is from a brand called Basic Apparel. I've looked online. This is meant to cost about like €130 or whatever. It looks like this. Very basic. I think it's something like 75% wool and 25% polyamide is the composition. I have worn this absolutely non-stop. I cannot be parted with this. I would rather wear this over a hoodie. It's like perfect, like shade of grey to go with everything. It's like a very basic cut, but it's the softness. It's the weight and the softness. This is soft in a way that I didn't know wool could be soft. I would rather wear this over like a fleece lined hoodie. It goes so hard. I love this, and the thickness of it is perfect because I've never had a piece of knitwear this thin before, and it's great. Like for summer evenings, it's great. For cold summer days, it's great. For autumn on its own, on a warmer autumn day, it's great. For a colder autumn day or even a winter's day under a coat or a jacket, it's great. And I've often struggled with this in winter because I'll be like, oh, I need a jumper, so I'll have a thick jumper. Surely that makes sense. But in reality, because it rains here so much, I've got to be wearing a coat on top of the jumper. And unless it's like freezing, like really cold, I get way too hot with that. But this thickness of jumper in like a real wool, not in like an acrylic or anything, is so like warm but insulating, but not bulky. You get it, like you get it, like I love this and you understand. It's also been through the washing machine on a hand wash cycle multiple times, and it's not like bobbled a lot. I really have worn this like an awful lot. Cannot sing this jumper's praises enough. So I want and need to recreate this. Like everything that I love about this, I want to have in more options, like in more colours. I feel very strongly about this piece of knitwear. I think the reason that this jumper is so amazing is because of the yarn and because of the thickness of the yarn. Now I can pretty much, I would bet on it that this is a fingering weight, which I know is like a big ask of yourself to knit a fingering weight jumper. But with the love that I have for this, I truly think it's possible. I can do anything. I could lift a truck if this was stuck under it. You know, this is the motherly bond that I feel for this garment. Now, I've been searching for fingering weight patterns, and honestly, they're kind of hard. Like, there's not that many, and there's not that many very well-known or well-tried ones in a sort of fit that really speaks to me. I looked on Ravelry for ages, like scrolled through loads of pages of it. Problem with Ravelry and searching for fingering weight jumper patterns is that often the patterns aren't actually fingering weight, like they're actually DK weight, because the way Ravelry will work is it'll say, oh, the suggested yarn for this sweater is like 1 strand of knitting for olive merino held with 1 strand of knitting for olive mohair, and it'll be like, yes, so a fingering weight yarn plus a fingering weight yarn, that must equal a fingering weight yarn. It's like, no, that's a DK weight pattern. Like, you're wasting my time. So I was just going through Google and I found this pattern called the Chestnut Sweater by Coffee and Crocheting. So it is a crochet pattern, which kind of appeals to me because none of these other patterns are crochet, and I don't want to just completely give up on crochet, although like knitting is my main interest, and also crochet is a little bit faster, so it might be a little bit less of a slog to do something this big. From the pictures, of which there aren't that many, it does look like a very similar fit to this jumper, but I think the fact that it's a crochet stitch does add a little bit of extra interest. It's done with a 3.5mm hook, and it's called a granite stitch, which I googled, and I think that's the same as a moss stitch, but you know, I'm happy to learn and figure that out. I've never done a moss stitch before, so that could be like, you know, good to add to my repertoire. So that's the pattern, but here is when I really appeal to you. The yarn. I need it to be as soft as this sweater. I have no idea how to find yarn as soft as this. Truly, I cannot explain to you how this doesn't itch. Can you imagine wearing something really soft that doesn't itch? Okay, this is this. And I have, you know I have sensitive skin. I know I have sensitive skin. It's really hard out here. This is as soft as like fleece, as like a fluffy blanket. I did have a little look on Reddit and I asked on Instagram. So I have a few potential options, but here's where I'm really opening up the floor. Like, if you've tried any of these yarns, if you've tried another yarn that's softer, please tell me. I need to know. I need to know. If I end up making an entire fingering weight sweater and it ends up itchy, I will scream. Anyway, so on Instagram I was recommended Lang Yarns Merino. I think the main one is a DK weight, but I'm sure they must do a fingering weight as well. Apparently that one's really soft. And then I looked on Reddit and someone had asked in like a forum and there were lots of responses. Lots of the responses said Malabrigo, like anything that Malabrigo does. And I had a look at Malabrigo. They have two wool type fingering weight yarns. One is the Ultimate Sock, which is 75% wool, 25% nylon. And the other one is Mechita, which is 100% wool. I don't know whether 100% wool would be better or to go for the wool and nylon split, because this one is 75-25%. And maybe that adds to how easily it washes or the softness. I don't really know. I know that it probably does help with keeping the structure and the shape. So I think I am at the moment leaning towards like a wool and nylon blend. But it's not something that I really know that much about. Then the other two that were recommended on the Reddit forum were Cascade Heritage, which is another fingering weight, 75% wool, 25% nylon, and then Sheepy's Metropolis, which is again a fingering weight, 25% nylon, 75% wool. Yeah. Now all of these are online and I don't have like a yarn store near me that sells these that I can go and get my little paws on. So please, 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 if you use any of these yarns, or if you have sensitive skin like me and you know what I mean and you have a fingering weight wool recommendation for me, I would really appreciate it if you could leave it in the comments below. For the colour of this sweater, because it's going to be such a massive effort and probably cost a lot in terms of the yarns, I don't want to be brave. I don't want to go for like a wild colour choice. I've already got a grey. I don't really want a beige. I don't care for a white, and I don't want a dark grey or a black. So this is where I think the red in my wardrobe really would be useful. Just like a basic ass, plain ass red. It'll be great for Christmas, but I feel like I could probably still wear it after Christmas. Well, not probably, definitely could still wear it after Christmas. I know that like a basic, like sort of dark, true red suits me. So I think that's the colour that I'm gonna go for. And yeah, I'm really excited for this one. It's probably gonna take all autumn and probably into winter too, but if the payoff is anywhere near as good as this darling sweater is, then it'll all be worth it. Yeah, that is me. That is literally all she wrote on her planner in her godforsaken handwriting. Thanks for putting up with me in this strange mood I found myself in, and with my dry tickly throat, my squeaky chair. I hope this was entertaining or useful, and please let me know what your autumn knitting plans are too. I'd love to hear them. Right, take care, bye!